Welcome to another Telecom Innovator video from Light Reading. My name is Phil Harvey. I'm the editor-in-chief of Light Reading, and today's guest is Charlie Vogt, the president and CEO of DZS. And at Light Reading, we've been covering Charlie for almost as long as we've been a publication, so about 20 years now. And first of all, welcome.
Well, it's great to see you, Phil.
It's great to see you as well. And, you know, you've been, in all the times we've covered you, it's been at these major transition points in the industry and also in your career. You've been CEO of several companies and frequently in situations where a company has been maybe underappreciated in the market and you've helped turn them around and get them going in the right direction. So I guess the first question I have for you is, since we need to once again talk about where you are in your career, but also what DZS is doing, what drew you to the opportunity at DZS? Why? What got you in the door?
Yeah, I mean, I've been following the company since Maury Ejibad founded it in the early 2000s. As you know, I was, before I became a first-time CEO in 2002, I was running sales at Ascend Communications before Lucent acquired the company in 1999. And, Maury started another access company focused on next-generation access in the early 2000s. So I've been following the company for a long time. I obviously, as you know, became a first-time CEO here in Dallas in 2002. And so, it was a tough era. I mean, from 2002 to 2012, 13, for those who weren't in the space, it was a lot of work. Access wasn't a whole lot of fun. And as you pointed out, there was a lot of transformation that went on. And so I've been following the company a long time, had an opportunity to join the company prior to when I just recently did. But timing, as you know, for CEOs is not easy. And I got to tell you, I couldn't be more thrilled to be joining the company at a time when, the opportunities and the tailwinds that are facing this industry is something we haven't seen in 20 years.
Right. And when you join a company, it makes me think something's about to happen. So this is your second, well, I guess you've sort of went away from the telecom industry proper for a few years and you're back. But in your, I guess over 2 decades of running companies in the space, especially in the access space, what's different about the access market now than when you, when you took over back in the early 2000s?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's 3 major themes that are major differences today than maybe what we saw, during the mid 2000s era. The first is just the evolution from 4G to 5G is not the same evolution from 3G to 4G. I mean, you've got a 25 times densification. You've got a network architecture that is going to be completely different to be able to truly challenge fixed wireline speeds with wireless services. And so there's going to be a lot more wireless spectrum that gets transported from cells to the core of the network into the packet-based network. And so and that coupled with the fact that, for the first time, I think we're seeing wireless networks begin to adopt open standards. We'll talk about it, I'm sure, but we're in Rakuten's network with their Open RAN network. And so that certainly presents an enormous opportunity for companies like us that historically were blocked out with Nokia, Ericsson, and Huawei and the others. So you got that big theme. The pandemic certainly shed a pretty big spotlight on just the deficiencies of many service provider networks around the world. When you had, plenty of bandwidth downstream, but not enough bandwidth available upstream. And when the pandemic hit, you've got millions and millions of people around the world who are on a, video collaboration call that's requiring a lot of bandwidth. You've got gaming that has exploded in households. And so the demands that are being placed on the network are something literally I haven't seen in 20 years. So that's an exciting phase because most of the networks today are sub 1 gig. And, now you've got this opportunity to upgrade those fixed wireline networks to something that's in the 10 to 25 gig range. And the life cycle with that will be significant. And then, the geopolitical spotlight on Huawei and so many countries around the world that are moving away from the Chinese suppliers is creating a very unique opportunity for companies like us. So I couldn't be more excited, and I think the company is very well positioned to participate.
You name checked Huawei there, and that you sort of answered that kind of how you stand up against a company like that. What about the other traditional access players in this space? Because that is one thing about the access market, especially as the 5G opportunity opened up, is it got really crowded. Everyone's wanting a piece of it. How does your company stand out?
Well, we sort of look at the fixed wireline market with the same 5 technology companies that have been in it for the past 15, 20 years. So you got Huawei, you've got Nokia, you've got Calix, you got Atran, you got us. I mean, those are, to me, the companies that are best prepared to be able to support today's network as well as evolve today's network on the fixed wireline side. I think the big difference between some of us is just geographically where we've been investing our time, money, and energy. And in the case of DZS, we're still a small company. I mean, if you look at any of the public data, we're forecasting $340 to $350 million of revenue this year. But when you look at the size company we are, it's pretty impressive when you look at the fact that we're supporting service providers in 100 countries. We're in Europe, we're in Dubai, we're all over Korea, Japan, Asia. We're now in India, and of course we're expanding heavily in North America and CALA. And so when I look at some of our peers, I don't know that they're as prepared to support some of those expansion opportunities. And then as I mentioned on the 5G side, I think it's an exciting time for a company like us to really be able to innovate alongside these large tier 1 service providers who are looking for companies to embrace, an open network view of how they can, control, the roadmap, and they can control the timing.
Yeah, it's an interesting time for those for service providers, especially because they're looking at their networks in a slightly different way now. In terms of the suppliers they let in and how well set up they are to kind of innovate later on. I think that could play in your favor for sure. Because of the pandemic and every other reason, I haven't talked to you in forever, and we haven't seen each other in at least 3 quarters. And you've been at DZS for 3 quarters now. Since you've been at the helm at DZS, what have been some of the highlights, or what have been some of the early wins that you've had?
Well, it's certainly been a highlight reel. I mean, I joined, as you mentioned, in August of 2020, and the company has experienced 3 consecutive top-line revenue quarters in a row. We had our best top-line revenue quarter in the company's history in Q3 of last year. In Q1 of this year, we had our best orders and backlog in the company's history. We saw North America grow sequentially from Q1 to Q4 85%. We saw North America grow 138% year over year. EMEA grew 60% year over year. Japan grew 460% year over year. And so, it's not all about, participating in an environment that needs our equipment. I think it has a lot to do with the changes we've made. I mean, since I've been with the company, we've really completely replaced the entire management team other than a couple of the executive leaders. We brought in some amazing talent from some of our peers that have been in the access space a long, long time that I think we're looking for an exciting path to innovate and to be part of something special. We've upgraded the sales team around the world. We've refocused the engineering organization around some of the things that we talked about earlier. In January, we raised $64 million in a follow-on equity round. We eliminated 100% of our debt. We've acquired 2 technology companies in February and March. One was focused on the coherent optics, really kind of expanding our mobile edge transport portfolio. And then, we had a pretty grandiose roadmap around what we were doing with our software-defined networking and network automation plans. And we ended up being very fortunate to acquire a company called Rift that had spent 7 years building a next generation network orchestration, software automation, 5G slicing, service assurance platform that really helped us sort of accelerate what we now call DZS Cloud. So to say we haven't done a lot in the last 9 or 10 months would be an understatement.
Right. Yeah, you've been incredibly busy. Gotten the financial house in order, got rid of the debt, shored up the management team, 2 acquisitions. Let's talk quickly about the 2 acquisitions. So the what were the companies again that you acquired, and then kind of strategically where, what did they help you accomplish?
Yeah, I mean, for me, and just from following us in the Gen Band days, I think I've acquired 15 companies in the last 12, 13 years, and so I've always been pretty acquisitive. But for us, Optilian, which was the Coherent Optics mobile transport acquisition that we made, this was a company based in Ottawa. They had been doing some pretty innovative innovation, specifically around how do you deliver a temperature-hardened coherent optics long-reach mobile transport platform. They had just recently got certified inside of AT&T and some of the other tier ones in North America. So the timing for us was ideal. It certainly complemented what we were already doing. From a Rift perspective, again, I mean, this could be one of the best M&A transactions I've been part of, and as you know, I've been part of some big ones. And this didn't come with revenue. It came with some very, very bright software developers. It came with what I believe to be one of the most advanced software automation and network orchestration platforms in the entire industry. And soon after we made that acquisition, Ibrahim and the team at TELUS selected our platform to help them not only manage their wireless network from a network orchestration perspective, but when you think about how applications are going to be managed in a wireless world, in a wireline world, our 5G slicing part of that portfolio will certainly be an add-on there. So it has a tremendous opportunity to unlock. We've got 20 million products deployed around the world. And if you think about what we may be able to do over time to unlock a lot of value there, it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, integrated optics on one side, and then network management and assurance and automation on the other side, particularly the automation piece. It's a pretty compelling story in terms of the access market as a whole. Now I get to ask you a blue sky question. So where do you see the industry going in the next couple of years? Since you've sort of been at the, you've been busy, obviously. have you had a chance to sort of prognosticate and look out and see what's going on?
Well, the one thing I've learned over the last 30 years is that the service providers don't move as fast as the vision and the appetite to move to adopt a new technology may provide that roadmap to look like. And so the timing as it relates to adopting next generation technology, as it relates to when are customers going to adopt, when are customers going to buy, when are customers going to deploy, has always been the most challenging thing, as you know well.
Sure.
In our industry. And so you never want to be too early, you never want to be too late. I certainly think that we have something that is unwinding right now in our industry that I haven't really seen since the CLECs were born. After the Communications Act in 1986 or whatever that was, and the big difference between then and now is back in the late 90s, you had a lot of CLECs that had a lot of private equity money that were funding an opportunity for them to go build a network, and if you build it, they will come. Well, They built the network, but it was hard for them to pull in a lot of customers, so there was a lot of challenges with a lot of those companies. Today is a bit different in the sense that you've got very mature service providers on the wireless side and on the wireline side, and you have technology that it's advanced so rapidly over the last decade. And now with the onset of what 5G promises, what the cable operators are doing, and now what the fixed wireline service providers are doing, including new age fiber overbuilders and so forth, you have this competitive environment today that everyone's trying to figure out how to hang on to the customers they have. How can they continue to increase their ARPU? And so I believe that there's an investment cycle that is underway that I think we haven't seen in a long time.
Okay. What for DZS specifically? What are your top areas that you're looking to grow in the next, let's say, 18 months or so? Given what you just said about service provider timing, about everybody kind of just now kind of pulling themselves out of the pandemic in North America anyway, and there's still some instability worldwide, but people are really, in desperate need of more bandwidth, almost, across the board.
100%.
So what growth areas do you see?
Yeah, so on the mobile side, I would say that we're in SoftBank, we're in Rakuten, we're in LGU, we're in some of the most advanced broadband wireless networks in the world, and we've learned a lot because 5G has been a learning process. And so I think that while there's a lot of wireless networks that will be designed and built that are not necessarily designed like Open RAN, like what Rakuten has done to really promote Open RAN. And so there's certainly a place for us to continue to participate. SoftBank's a really good example of that. LGU is a really good example of that, where we see huge opportunities for us to participate in their acceleration in wireless services. But I think we're going to hitch our wagon to what I eventually believe will become the evolving way in which mobile networks are built out, and that's with an Open RAN or virtual Open RAN, hybrid Open RAN kind of network architecture. I mean, when you got companies like AT&T, the largest brand and service brand in the world, saying Open RAN is certainly something that they're looking really hard at, I think that says a lot. So I think we have a great opportunity there. I mean, we haven't historically been able to participate in the mobile world just because it was closed. I mean, right. You had Huawei, you had ZTE, you had Ericsson, you had Nokia, and it was hard to participate there. I think as Open RAN gets adopted, I think there's a very significant opportunity for us there. So we're innovating a lot there. I mean, there's a lot of technology consolidation going on there as it relates to how the RU and DU facets are going to ultimately be developed and deployed. That's sort of separate in part with what we're doing on the mobile transport side. On the fixed side, man, I've not seen service providers have such an appetite for something greater than 1 gig than what I'm seeing right now. So XGS-PON is a big area of innovation for us. I think that we're in a really unique place because we still have very high dense, low cost central office platforms that the large carriers need. We have a next generation AnyPort, AnyPON card that's coming out here this summer. We're on the forefront of 25 gig for those service providers that see a need beyond 10 gig. And, we don't talk a lot about it, but we ship 4 million CPE products a year. I mean, products that terminate fiber, that right. terminate GFast in a lot of the markets in Europe. And we're doing a lot of innovation, around Wi-Fi 6 and fixed wireless solutions and 5 millimeter solutions. So it's a big part of our business, and it's part of our strategy, frankly, to wedge our way into accounts. Think about, service providers around the world that have Chinese suppliers in their network, and they want to cap and grow those suppliers. What's the first thing you want to do? You don't want a Chinese CPE device in the home or connected to the home. And so we've done a lot of interop with Huawei and ZTE over the years. We're interoperable with a lot of our peers, and so our ability to play strongly both in the core as well as at the home or business is a key strategy for us.
Fantastic. Well, you've given us a lot to look forward to. You're certainly, we're certainly going to continue to watch because you're always interesting, and this space is very interesting right now. Charlie Vogt, President and CEO of DZS, thanks so much for your time today.
Phil, thank you very much.